So I never thought I'd get another homework assignment from Chuck Blair, but here we are. So as you mentioned, I'm a television journalist here in Philly. I tell stories for a living, a handful of stories every week, and that means I get to meet new people every single day. It's one of my favorite parts of my job. I get to meet people out in the field and tell their stories, and most of us, are never going to have the chance to be Rosa Parks, right? I mean, that was a special opportunity. A woman with courage and conviction, and she was at the right place and the right time in history. That rare combination allowed her to create lasting change. Most of us aren't going to be faced with that kind of life-changing choice, right? We're not going to have to sit at a lunch counter in Greensboro to protest, and we're not going to have to protest the Montgomery bus boycotts, the bus stations in Montgomery, Alabama. But that doesn't mean we're off the hook, right? Just because we're not going to change the world overnight. We make choices every single day. And in little ways, those decisions we make and those choices we make slowly add up and accumulate over time to create the society and the community that we deserve. And hopefully, it's a beloved one. So again, I tell stories. I want to show you four stories here that I've covered here in Philadelphia and in Florida when I worked there about people who had a choice and made something greater than themselves. And we'll pop up the stories on this screen behind me as I'm talking. So let's hit play. This first story is just one of simple heroism that I covered here in Philadelphia. His name's Officer Robert Wilson III. He was a Philadelphia cop in the 22nd District. That's North Philly. He goes into a GameStop store in the winter. He's on duty. He's going to buy a video game for his son, a present. And that's when two guys storm in with handguns to rob the place. Now, here's his decision he has to make. Split second. I don't think he even blinked. He immediately engages those suspects. He fires back at them, drawing the gunfire away from the crowds of people and towards himself. And for 30 seconds, he's fighting for his life, right? He died inside that store. And even though he died, he saved the lives of those people, drawing the gunfire away. And more than that, he creates a safer community every day. He and his other officers are working in Philly. This next guy's from New Jersey, Glenn Calderbank. He's just a guy browsing Craigslist for some construction supplies when he stumbles into an ad asking for a kidney, of all things, right? Please, I need a kidney. This woman, Nina Soria, who lives down the shore, suffers from kidney failure, and she's desperate, so she goes online. Glenn thinks, I'm just some guy, I'm a stranger, but I'm presented this opportunity, I'll step up. And he donates his kidney. Turns out his late wife died of kidney failure about 10 years earlier. He posted this ad in the newspaper before Craigslist was a thing, begging for a kidney for his wife. Nobody responded. So when he was presented that chance to help, he didn't hesitate. Community can start between just two people. This third story is one from my time working in Florida. I thought it might be good for the high school students here. I met a kid named Hakeem Daly. He lives with cerebral palsy, and school's tough for him. Nobody really understood what he was going through. He was sometimes bullied, but he had one dream, and that dream was to be the homecoming king. Unfortunately, this is high school. It doesn't really work like that. He wasn't popular. He wasn't normal, right? And so the kids wouldn't have voted him in. He tried anyways. He gets in line with all the other popular kids, and this story's more about everybody else in that picture who got wind of what was happening. They got together, and unanimously, they've decided to vote for him as homecoming king, and they surprised him. Look at that reaction. Look at his face. And that's not going to change the world, right? They just voted some kid homecoming king, but it creates a safe and loving place for this kid that doesn't have many friends and creates a community for him at his school. All right, this last one happened a couple of weeks ago. I think it's an example of community at its most literal. Allentown, Pennsylvania, the desperate search for a 5-year-old boy who vanished. No coat, it was freezing cold, he has autism. Neighbors told me this part of East Allentown's kind of transitioning. Most people don't know their neighbors, they go in and out of their homes. But when they heard this kid, Jaleel Vega, had vanished, hundreds of them came out of the woodwork from every corner, every street, even from other states to help find this kid who was missing. They turned a neighborhood into a brotherhood and a sisterhood, right? And it was a volunteer searcher who found the boy's tablet computer in the river. That clue eventually led searchers to the young boy's body, which was nearby. So this story, and many others, doesn't have a happy ending. We see a lot of sadness in the news, right? This family suffered an unspeakable tragedy, but what came for it, and it's not really a sense of consolation, but what came from it is a sense of community that the city of Allentown hasn't had in a long time. That city's been struggling. Low income, lots of poverty, but they came together. Regular people called to help, and they did. They acted, and they could at least give the family some sense of, closure, a sense of love and caring during the most difficult time in their life from complete strangers who came out of nowhere to help. again, we see a lot of sadness in the daily news, right? That's one of the biggest complaints about the news. Y'all might have heard this quote from Mr. Rogers. He said, anytime you see something scary on TV, in the news, look for the helpers. There's always people helping, right? The people running towards the disaster, not away from it. Even if we do step up, sometimes that's not even going to work. It's not going to help. It's not going to change the world. The little boy, he wasn't found in time, right? That kidney donor, he went under the knife. They put him into surgery, and they realized his kidney was too weak. They had to cancel the surgery. So is that a failure? No, he acted. They acted. They made a conscious decision to act. Let's close with a quote from a civil rights journalist who covered Martin Luther King. Her name was Ida B. Wells, and she was asked, what can I do to help the cause? And she responds, for her, this is her answer, the answer always is, tell the world the facts, right? That would be my answer, too. As a journalist, I tell the world the facts. That's how I contribute to a better community. Everyone out here will have a completely different answer of their own depending on their nature, what they're good at, depending on their usefulness, right? That's a very new church teaching, right? Usefulness. I'd like to think if together we all answer that question in little ways throughout the rest of our lives, like these people did when they're presented with that chance, that Martin Luther King's idea of a beloved community can really start to take shape. And I truly see it out there in flashes and bits every single day among the people I interview. And most of the stories of people making that community happen aren't even going to make the headlines. So 4 stories. Chuck, thank you very much.